Hello and welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. In today's game of Unmatched, we have myself on the left and Sunzida on the right. I am playing with Benedict Cumberbatch, who has 2 movement and 16 health. His trusty sidekick, Martin Freeman, is 8 health with range, and neither of their effects can be cancelled by an opponent. On the right side, Sunzida is playing with Benadryl Candlestick, who has 2 movement and 14 health, ranged, with his trusty sidekick, Benedict Wong, also called Wong, who's 6 health and ranged, and the Doctor Strange ability lets him cycle a card whenever Doctor Strange plays it for a health and draw a card. So some context for this game. I tried to film some content with Brains and Brawn because it was our first time playing with it. I tried playing Black Widow against Doctor Strange, who on this channel at least has had a pretty reasonable showing. 3 games later, each of those games I lost so spectacularly that I decided that I couldn't put that on the channel. Because no one wants to watch Strange just move and attack, and Black Widow just slowly crumble with 7 cards in hand and no defenses 3 times in a row. So Sunzida decided to convince me to play Sherlock. And the problem is I haven't played Sherlock in over a year because he is one of the top 3 and just mega busted, and it's usually not a fun experience either way unless someone's up for it. So here's me piloting Sherlock very rustily, and we'll see how it goes. And you can tell, not only am I rusty, I'm also on tilt, playing Confirmed Suspicion when Doctor Strange has 7 cards in hand, the exact worst time to play that card. But I think I just named 2 and wanted to get Bolts of Balzac out of her hand. Obviously that didn't work, and we see a Steadfast Disciple instead. But, you know, we tried. We got 2 damage through to Doctor Strange as it is anyway. So here's an attack. It's a Master of Combatage, 4 value into Study Methods, which is 3. I did not win the combat, so I do not get to look at the opponent's hand, but no big deal. And then Doctor Strange will hop onto that +2, which seems like a good move. I will double maneuver, and it seems good to just get out of range and just try and move zones. Unfortunately, this map is really bad if you're trying to run from anything, because, especially a ranged fighter, because it just takes a couple of steps and you are within range of being hit. Speaking of which, it's a Bolt of Balzac into a deduce strategy. I do not change the printed value into the boost value because that would suck, and it's a 4 into a 3. Sunzida will trigger the ability to cycle and draw a card, and then of course she gains an action, which I believe we miss, so that was a misplay. But here we are. Here's an attack, and it's a Service Revolver from Martin Freeman into a 4 value Master of Combatage. So just takes 1 from one of the biggest attack cards in my deck. No problem there, just from a regular defense. It wasn't even a particularly mystical one. It was, you know, just a 2 that becomes a 4. Any case, here we go. We have a swing. It is Rings of Ragador into Counter Punch. I had that in hand, so I didn't move. 1 damage through to me. Sunzida heals 1, but then takes 2 from the Counter Punch. Will she trigger the ability to cycle it back? It seems like a good card to have. There she is. So that's another card draw for Sunzida, and Rings of Ragador is again at the bottom of the deck. And here's another one. I play Elementary. I did name 4 because most of Doctor Strange's effects fire at 4 most optimally. And so that was the full cancel of that card. So that felt alright, at least. There was some way of dealing with that. I will double maneuver because I am running out of defense card in hand, because a lot of my hand schemes. And Doctor Strange will play No Really I'm a Doctor and heal for 3, putting a Bolt of Balzac back on top of the deck. And back we go. So she's back to 10 health, and I'm still at 13. Doctor Strange did take some damage, like a fair amount of damage throughout that exchange, but with that healing card, it's just very strong. So I will run Dr. Watson away, and then I'll play Master of Disguise and swap myself and Doctor Strange, meaning that I am now stood on the +2 next to Wong. There we are. So there are 2 Doctors and 3 Benedicts currently on the field, which is quite a sight to see. So Wong decides to take a swing at Holmes, which makes sense because I have a limited number of defenses and Strange has an unlimited number of attacks. So Steadfast Disciple into a Counter Punch, so Wong takes a little bit of damage. And unfortunately, that's not where I want the damage to go, but I'll take it where I can get it, I think. So here is a follow-up attack. To Bolt of Balzac again into a deduce strategy. I, of course, will not swap the values. Sunzida blind boosts with her Winds of Watum, and it only gets to 3, so that is a full defense, and no action gain there. So here we are. We play Administer Aid to heal some health and draw a card, and I think we're just going to stay there because sitting on that +2 seems useful. And Sunzida will regroup and bring both of her fighters back together because that turns on a couple of the cards in Strange's deck. So now we're in a weird position where I didn't want to engage, and Strange gets the draw back up again. So here we are, and it's a Rings of Ragador with the boosted battlefield item into Education Never Ends, which means Sunzida gets 2 health recovery, and I get to draw 2 cards. I decided to try and hit back with Sherlock before remembering, oh, he's a melee fighter, because he usually carries a gun, which means I'm stuck with a whole bunch of cards in hand, which is very awkward. Fortunately, I don't expect this game to go to exhaustion anyway, and just because Strange can cycle so many cards back into his deck. So as the game is afoot, of course it's Mists of Monopord, so it becomes a counterpunch, which isn't the worst. It's still 3 damage through, but it means one of my 5s is gone, and a bunch of the cards that I took off the top of my deck are now at the bottom of my deck. So we'll see how that goes. And we discard a Dr. Watson fixed point in a changing time, the healing card for 3 versatile because of hand size. So now next to Doctor Strange, Sunzida will play Eye of Agamotto to shuffle her hand into her deck, draw 5 cards in K9 action. Incredibly powerful, and a lot of value if you have less than 5 cards in hand, but still pretty good if you don't like the cards in your hand in the first place. And here's an attack, and it's a bolted power attack into a feint. Thankfully, I had that one in hand and was able to feint it. Here's, of course, another follow-up attack, continuing the aggression. And it's a Rings of Ragador into a Study Methods. So Sunzida will win the combat, heal 1 health. I will not get to look at her hand, and she will take that 1 health gain, take the damage, put the card back on the bottom, draw another card. Here's another 5 into a 4 because... into a 2 because Wong is not next to Doctor Strange, so there's 3 damage through. And Strange is now down to 4 health, and I am still at 10. So it's looking okay so far, but you cannot underestimate the amount of healing that is possible. So here is a maneuver and an attack, and it's a Rings of Ragador again into a feint. 2 damage does go through, but no healing there for Sunzida, and it's what she really wanted at the time, I can imagine, because being on 4 health is pretty risky. Fortunately, Holmes' attacks aren't that strong, and we've already gone through, I think, 3 of the 4 5s, or I think potentially all of them, so I can't really hit as hard. Here is a boosted Service Revolver into a Cloak of Levitation. That was my bad for standing right next to Strange, and of course a 7 value goes to 0. Fantastic. So, of course, there's a swing back. Sunzida is starting to run low on cards. So here is a Winds of Watum into Education Never Ends. Winds of Watum will, of course, set us back across the map, which buys us some time. I draw 2 cards, and then we place each other in starting spaces. So Sunzida places me as far as she can get, and will stand by the +2. So here's Eliminate the Impossible. I will look at Sunzida's hand and pick a card to discard. Now her hand looks pretty good. Mr. Monopole, incredibly frustrating. Feint, always good, and a healing card. Any one of those would be great to get rid of, especially since Strange is on 3 health. I'm still on 7, I still have the health advantage. I decided to go for Mr. Monopole because my deck is starting to look thin, and I'm going to start running out of attack cards I can play. Feint is good, but I can at least hit over it and deal some damage that way. So I will take a maneuver and try to step forward. From Sunzida's point of view, I think it's... here's an auto damage, there you are. I'm putting myself on +2. I think it's just trying to draw up and find those stronger defenses and those healing cards. She has the healing card in hand so that if she draws a 3 boost, she can play it for maximum value. There it is. No, really, I'm a doctor. Putting Eye of Agamotto on the top of the deck to heal for 2. And we know that she can essentially reshuffle and draw 5 if she draws the next action. So I will move in, and Watson will take a shot at Strange. It's a feint. At this point, we do forget that Sherlock does actually have an ID ability, and we do cancel the ability, so we don't get a health recovery, which might have been important, but it's an easy oversight, especially if there's so much going on with these 2 characters. So here's an attack, and it's a 7-Sun Cinnabus into a feint. I take 1 damage through, but Sunzida is not able to double blind boost that, which I'm pretty happy about. So here's a Confirmed Suspicion. I name 2 again, and there goes the other feint, which is, pretty useless a lot of the time against Sherlock. And then there's a maneuver. So this is me trying to keep Sunzida's hand low, but of course she has Eye of Agamotto, so we'll draw back up to 5 and gain an action. Strange is very rarely caught without cards, it seems. So here we go, we have an attack from down the way, I think from Wong this time. I debate using the +2, but I decide, it'd be fine. And it's a Bolt of Balthak into do strategy once again for the 3rd time. Sunzida boosts it, and it's 1 damage through, she gains an action. And here's where I believe I messed up, because I should have played the +2 just in case it was Bolt of Balthak for the action gain, because I don't have any defense cards in hand. So here's another Bolt of Balthak, because action gain is absolutely fine. It's blind boosted to a 4, I'm down to 1 health. Does Sunzida have a damage card, an attack card, anything? She could even take a damage to draw another card. And there's a Rings of Ragador, and that's a game. Cool, so Sherlock down to 0, Doctor Strange down to 2, although he's been floating around 4 or 5 for the last, I think, 10 minutes in real time. Just been dancing around and being able to manage that, because oftentimes your opponents will run out of gas and their offense will falter. So there we are, well played by Sunzida. Managing that health isn't easy. Like Doctor Strange is pretty technical and pretty difficult to pilot well. That being said, I so far haven't had a good time against him, just because he seems to have answers to everything. He always is able to maintain card advantage. He has full cancels at melee range. He can always just move and attack, and eventually the opponent typically runs out of either defense cards or good attack cards, because when they are able to attack, that attack can get missed away, or full cancelled, or effect cancelled, or just value blocked for 4 or 5 with the 7 Sons of Cinnabus or Master of Kamal-Haj or anything like that. On top of that, he has non-committal attack cards that you can blind boost for action gain. So he's got action gain, full cancel, double ranged, and more healing than you can shake a stick at. Just to summarize some of what you can do. So I know a lot of people enjoy the character both thematically and mechanically as a play experience, but I don't know, I'm still split on it. It remains to be seen, really. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.